In the winter of 1977, the Montrose Rams etched their names into Michigan high school wrestling history, not with just a championship, but with a three-peat. The 1977 Montrose wrestling team secured its place in history by capturing the program's third consecutive state championship, capping off a dominant three-year run that established the gold standard for Montrose wrestling under Coach Tom Castile. While this team wasn't top to bottom as talented or having the depth of the 1976 team, this team had leadership and experience. They knew how to win. Led by individual state champions Tony Paletti and Bob Farr, and bolstered by all-state standouts Jerry Silva, Floyd Keith, Mark Severn, and Jim Schaefer, the team showcased a rare combination of depth, grit, and championship pedigree. The grit was truly epitomized by one of their star wrestlers, a returning state champion, Mark Severn. Mark and his brother Dan traveled to Turkey with the U.S. national team in the summer of 1976. Mark contracted a rare blood disorder, believed to have occurred when he was in Turkey. It became apparent during his senior season of football as Mark lost a vast amount of weight and could barely walk or make it through practice. His parents and his doctor realized that this was more than just a passing ailment, and that Mark's significant weight loss during his growth years signaled something insidious. As his brother Mike remembers, "I remember my dad wrapping Mark in a sheet and taking him to emergency to diagnose and treat his yet unknown illness. I didn't see my brother Mark for weeks." The furthest thing from Mark Severn's mind or his family's, let alone his teammates, was the thought of him wrestling during the 1977 season for his beloved Rams. Mark had lost more than 70 pounds and was a mere shell of his former hulking 6'3", 230-pound frame. Mark was fighting for his life. He took well to the treatment and responded very favorably. Doctors credited his recovery to his overall health and positive outlook on life. Mark was a fighter, but the prospect of wrestling in the late fall, early winter of 1976-1977 was very dim. In late January of 1977, Mark was watching practices from the wall and entertained the notion of making a comeback. Jerry Silva recalls, "Mark would walk the hallways during warm-ups just to get his mobility, balance, and breathing in order. We were amazed that he was even there." The team wrestled with inspiration, knowing that their star, returning state champion, had joined their practices and was entertaining a comeback. Mark never wrestled a match during the regular season, but he decided he was going to give it a try. Against the wishes of his parents, he entered the state district tournament as a heavyweight and took the tournament. Next was the state regional tournament, where Mark emerged as the champion. All that was left was the state tournament, and Mark's strength and endurance had made some improvement. Mark made it to the finals, where he lost a tough match 4-2 to a very tough and athletic heavyweight from Flat Rock. While he didn't return to the top of the podium, he was crucial to Montrose taking their third title in a row. In a newspaper article, Coach Castile commented, "We were all very happy to win the state championship, but there wasn't a dry eye among our team when Mark lost his match. Mark contributed 19 points to the team score, and we only won by 11. True grit." Bob Farr recalls Coach Castile pulling he and Tony Paletti into a private meeting, and Bob's first reaction was, "Uh-oh, what have I done?" Coach proceeded to emphatically state, "Paletti, I need you to get the title, and Farr, you need to get into the finals for us to have any chance to win." Tony Paletti and Bob Farr both prevailed in the finals, Tony winning his second state championship and Bob winning his first. Tony capped his career at Montrose, setting the high school national wrestling record of 159 wins and earning All-American status. College coaches were flooding to Montrose to sign the talented Ram. Discipline and relentless drive set the tone for decades of wrestling excellence to follow. The 1977 squad didn't just win, they defined what it meant to be a Montrose Ram, building a tradition that continued to be a talent pipeline for major collegiate wrestling programs. Bob Farr and Tony Paletti captured state titles. Floyd Bulldog Keith and Mark Severn were runner-ups, and Jerry Silva and Jim Schaefer secured all-state status. This team not only practiced together, they won together. And when a team wins a state championship medal in wrestling, the junior varsity teammates also receive one. Why? Because practice in the Montrose wrestling room is like wrestling at the state finals, with the experienced wrestlers beating up the JV guys, practicing their moves, building their stamina. Together, they accomplished their mission. They instilled the dream. They built a state championship team. Those JV wrestlers were the state champs of Montrose's future. The 1977 state champion wrestling team members were coached by the late head coach Tom Castile and Bob Hayes, along with assistant coaches Rod Simonson and Greg Whitney. Teammates include Jim Cubby Andrus, Romy Ashby, Jeff D.D. Blair, Paul Kohlinger, Tim Dowd, Bob Farr, Ken Flannery, Matt Hanel, Dale Hitchcock, Yong Huang, Scott Jacobs, Dwayne Jerome, Floyd Keith, Tom Lovas, Brian Lean, Jerry Nielsen, Andrew Perch, Brian Reinhardt, Brian Ruddy, Jim Schaefer, Mark Severn, Mike Severn, Jerry Silva, Scott Stauffer. Teammates that left this world too soon include the late Mark Clark, Dan Jake Clark, Dennis Cole, Phil Cross, Tony Emmendorfer, Greg Hutchinson, Kevin Hutchinson, Gilberto Perez, Tony Paletti, and Randy Sage. The cheerleaders' mat-mates on the 1977 team were coached by manager Judy Thomas and include Julie Barnice McCula, Janet Martin Bartlett, Patty Ranger Tracy, Celeste Ranger, Delyn Scrivina, Nancy Axtell, Candy Allard, Debbie Gamage Moe, Cindy Kaczynski, Cindy Leineke Monroe, Diane Richter, and the late Dana Gage Bamberger and Ruth Krasinski. Tonight, we honor the 1977 Montrose wrestling team, three-time state champions, survivors, brothers, legends, rallying around a teammate and forging a legacy, forever part of the Montrose Hall of Fame. 1977 state championship wrestling team inductees, please come to the stage.